Hello, everyone. My name is Iris Tibbitts, and I'm here to provide an introduction to uncrewed aircraft vehicles, also known as drones, and to hopefully demystify the process in not only getting started as a hobbyist, but also any concerns people may have as regulations continue to get more and more complex as the years go on. I do currently have my trust certificate, which is the recreational UAS certificate to operate your drone as a hobbyist. I am more than happy to assist anyone who is interested in obtaining their trust certificate move forward with that. And the goal of this presentation is to kind of give a high level overview. So if you are interested but don't even know where to get started, or perhaps you've done a little bit of research and then quickly got overwhelmed, that this will at least kind of give you a good starting point to go from and even make a decision on whether a trust certificate or something a little bit more deeper is in alignment with your goals. Just to give you a little bit more background on how I even got motivated to do this presentation to begin with, I am studying at an organization that provides not only guidance around uncrewed aircraft vehicles to get that trust certificate and become an operator, but also around design build and programming and whatnot. And one thing that I discovered as I was doing research is that a lot of the blog websites that would have a lot of the things about like how to set up the various AIs or how to troubleshoot a various component would go into these random segues into how the regulations now were discouraging them from wanting to participate as a hobbyist. And I kind of was processing this in the back of my mind as I was continuing my own studies and doing my own research. And after obtaining my trust certificate and researching how to obtain the commercial license, it occurred to me that there's a lot of misconceptions, not and I'm not going to name these blog authors because this isn't meant to be a call out. It's more of a retrospective, a reflection upon kind of the pulse and the temperature of what various voices are saying as they kind of do their stream of consciousness commentary, is that it makes complete sense why there would be a version around as there's more and more complexity and more rules to rethink participating as a hobbyist. My goal with this presentation is to simplify that so that it's no longer intimidating, that it's re-established as something that's very accessible, and to kind of empower everyone that's currently watching to feel like they can move forward in whatever direction they're hoping to do with their interest in drones and uncrewed aircraft in particular. So to kind of allude to the regulations I was discussing, the FAA is notorious for its mantra of follow the rules. And that is one of the things that, particularly if the flood of details is overwhelming, this pressure to follow the rules or there will be real consequences like getting your various certificates potentially revoked or fines or this, that, or the other thing, just combing through all the fine print and being firm on what the potential consequences are is one of the things that I was noticing, for instance, in these blogs, is a lot of these people, as I mentioned, it's not intended as a direct criticism. They really wanted to be good operators and follow the rules, but they were feeling increasingly anxious around making sure that they were in alignment with these rules and were anxious about accidentally finding themselves breaking them and what the consequences would be, et cetera, et cetera. So as I was talking about, this pressure to follow the rules can feel quite overwhelming. The space continuously is not only growing, but the regulations themselves are changing. And there's like announcements periodically published in articles discussing how these regulations will impact uh, the industry and which ones are still kind of being discussed and which are in the air. So again, I can completely understand how it can become overwhelming. So that's why I've kind of broken this down into two buckets. If you would like to follow the rules, there's two major paths that you can go down. The first one would be that hobbyist route with the trust certificate that I mentioned. Just to reiterate how even though this may seem like, oh no, I have to get this certificate and I don't know if I can do that. It's kind of, from my perspective, no more complex than getting your driver's license for an actual like manually driven car. So it's great that, similar to your car, that you have various things that allow you to make sure that your vehicle is inspected and that it's safe. And if it's involved in any sort of accident, that it can be tracked. It's that level of basic regulation that's going on. And the hobbyist really is being further empowered by having these tools so that they know where to find the maintenance information for their drone. They know where these rules are, and it's also in one centralized location. If they need training, the training is accessible, etc. So rather than it being kind of a decentralized ad hoc um, rule of thumb type of thing, this regulation layer, from my view, adds actually a level of clarification around what is the follow the rules expectation to begin with. However, if you want to be paid for whatever you're doing with that drone, you do have to kind of start venturing into that option two bucket in this slide, which is part 107. Um, Part 107 is something I have been studying for, and I'm pretty close to feeling confident that I will be able to obtain that regulation as well. So if that is an option that you are also curious about, and what the studying load and what the complexity of studying for this type of test is actually like beyond the driver's license, like the CDL, I believe, is like the driver's license equivalent of it. If you want to be paid for your drone work and you still want to follow those rules, I'd be more than happy to discuss one-on-one with anybody interested in that as well. But long story short, it falls down into two major buckets. While you're practicing for a commercial license, you definitely can become a hobbyist and kind of get a lot of experience under your belt. If you are interested in just kind of maintaining your hobbyist amateur status, it's a fairly straightforward and easy certificate to get, so you don't have to sweat it anymore. You have your equivalent of your drone's registration, and you just kind of make sure that you're kind of checking off your pre-flight checks and you have all your things in place. And it's one of those similar things to the driver's license test, where it has a certain amount of questions. So all those types of study guides and materials, I'd be more than happy to network with you. Here's an example of that trust certificate with the personal information kind of censored out, because as you can kind of guess, that authentication token is similar to like your license plate number. And you kind of want to have that on hand and not exactly so Gregory Barnes, I'm guessing that's an imaginary person as well. But those sorts of things are your identifying information for not only yourself and your drone, so that anything that your drone is participating in, you have the appropriate information associated with your contact information, and also the drone specs as well. So as this slide illustrates, it's your license plate for your drone and for your operator entry-level certificate to operate your drone. Some resources that I alluded to, even if you can't quite read them on the slide, if you're on a device that this slide is a little bit hard for you to read, I will kind of quickly read them over for you without going into too much detail. But there's plenty of resources out there, but it kind of goes down into four major buckets to prepare for your trust certificate. Before you fly is great for kind of giving you meme or soundbite level information for recreational flyers, where you can and cannot fly without getting into too much deep regulations and overwhelming you with too much information. That's what that acronym stands for, before you fly, so that you feel like you're adequately prepared prior to any mission. Some places are regulated airspace, some places are not. This is the resource that you can go to kind of wrap your head around whether or not, before you even launch your drone, if you're in an okay place where the appropriate authorities won't necessarily think that from the get-go there's something inherently problematic about your desire to operate your drone. The trusted testing stations. This is a list of vendors that the FAA has blessed for you to take your trust certificate from. I have to admit, I think I went with like the first link that's on that particular list just because I wanted to get it done and I was feeling a little bit of a time crunch. So I can refresh my memory which one I went to if that is something that you're interested in. The last two are great for anybody who is feeling that physically operating the drone is a little bit intimidating and they're worried about crashing it into property and what if I break the drone and et cetera, et cetera. Simulators are readily available on the market in various price points. I listed the two that I am most familiar with and that we used in the school that I mentioned that I have my certificate at, SDI. We used two different simulators depending on what type of typology, I guess, for lack of a better term, the type of drone we were interested in exploring and flying. The Zephyr by Little Arms is great for multicopters, the ones that are got the four propellers and are usually about the size of a takeout pizza and are kind of mostly in the public consciousness for being kind of the new cutting edge hovering type of ones. And that's what this little graphic at the top is abstractly representing as a multicopter, even though it's only showing two of the propellers. The Drone Racing League one at the bottom is put out by the Air Force, and it's much more for something called first-person view drones. So rather than it being a third person, you look at your drone and you're operating it with your hand thing. You have like a headset, and it's as if you are flying on the drone itself from that first-person perspective. So if you're interested in any first-person perspective type of drone simulation, the Drone Racing League is a very good choice. So if you are curious, if there's any like very quick reasons why you might want to consider passing that Part 107 certification, as I already mentioned, if you plan on getting compensated in any way under law, you must obtain this license. As a hobbyist, you are not supposed to be doing anything and getting paid for it. Otherwise, they view that as a violation of the terms of how you got your trust certificate. You are no longer trustworthy according to kind of the terms and conditions under that. So they provide that first level of it so you can at least have access to the drone, fly it legally, practice your takeoff and landings, do various volunteer work where you're not getting paid and you're not doing anything that would be considered a financial transaction. So it's like a not an official internship, but it's a way to at least practice and hone your skills so that before you start actually working with commercial grade drones, that you have this kind of basic level certification. Another thing to consider is as a hobbyist, you still can't fly over people, vehicles, you can't fly from within a vehicle. So if there's anything you want to do as a hobbyist that is barred from the hobbyist license, it's probably just something that you can get a waiver for under Part 107. So if you want to fly your drone at night, if you want to film something because you're interested in doing like even student films, Part 107 probably is a good thing for you to start exploring at least if it's something that's in alignment with your professional goals. Student filmmakers hopefully do move on to being professional filmmakers, and professional filmmakers do have Part 107 licenses. So as I was mentioning, here's kind of a more detailed list of those waivers. Operating from a moving vehicle or aircraft, you can get a waiver for operating at night. The BVLOS one, the 107.31, is the POV operation that I was alluding to. So if you want to do the headset and operate your drone from a full first-person perspective, you can do that. You just need to apply for the waiver. I'm not going to go over all of these because as time goes on, some of these are roped into just generic Part 107 and you no longer need the waiver. I would have to go back and double check which ones were released this summer. But just to give you an idea, if you are very focused on what your goals are as a drone operator, probably they would be in a list of a waiver or a previous waiver or currently now grandfathered into the main regulations, but at least would clarify um, if you have something particular in mind and it's listed here, you probably want to look into getting your commercial license, which is a second test with deeper level questions, which I can go into at some later point, but I kind of want to stay on track with kind of covering what this simulator in particular will help you with, and what it will not. The little arms one will not help you pass any particular certification, but what it will help you with is feel confident that you know what you're doing once you have that certification. This is a distinction I feel the need to point out because when you go into both your trust certificate and your Part 107, they will not put a simulator in front of you and ask you to pass it. They will ask you a series of like book multiple choice type questions. However, one thing that I've noticed similarly in the blog land is after they pass this test, they experience almost like performance anxiety that they're going to not be able to do the correct flight paths that they anticipate they need to do. They sometimes even report having accidents on the job, et cetera, et cetera. So one thing that was kind of presented to myself and my classmates and was mentioned in a lot of other independent research is these simulators can really help someone who, regardless of their certification level with the book tests and whatnot, get that simulated quasi real world practice so that when they are accepting missions and expected to do particular flight paths on the fly, that they don't feel like they're completely green and they have never done it before. This one in particular, I did enjoy. I felt it was challenging. So I would recommend Zephyr by Little Arm Studio for anyone who is just getting started in particular. However, it has zero, or as far as I was able to find, at least with the version I got, it doesn't have first person view. So if first person view is what you're interested in, which seems to be the quote unquote future of drone operation, the drone lacing rig simulator is a great choice and it's relatively affordable. I believe I got it for less than $50. I think I paid less than $50 for it, which is quite a bit cheaper than the Zephyr simulator, which is a little bit more in the $100 plus price point and has a lot of add-ons that you kind of have to buy per module. So that one is a little bit more expensive despite being so realistic. The FPV one is a little bit more affordable despite being so hyper focused on FPV drone operation.